Good morning. Today we are going to talk about gradio, streamlit, NiceGUI, flet, all of this kind of Python web UI dashboard. I think it's this type of tools is a very useful tools for demonstrate your machine learning or data science project. And also, even if you are not doing, say, for machine learning or data science, they are potentially good tools for you to develop other type of product, um, at least to do something for like proof of concept or prototype certain your ideas. Okay, so last time when we talked about Hugging Face, we introduced that there is a service called the Hugging Face space that you can create to show your demo, to hosting your demo on Hugging Face space. They have some free plan, so you can use a free virtual machine and put some demo or prototype on the Hugging Face space as a demonstration of your, saying, your research or your project or anything that is a prototype of that can advertise your ideas or your works. There are certain options on the space that you can select, and they provide some template. There are some more generic template like static files that you just put static files on the Hugging Face space to serving something like a blog, a website, or documentation. And they are also darker. So in principle, because it is serving a darker, so you can pretty much serving anything you want. If you have a darker image, you can serve it on a Docker container and put it on the Hugging Face space. After all, Hugging Face is a virtual machine, and most likely it is serving it in a Docker container. So there is a Docker option to select the template that provided in a Docker format. But there are two other options. One is streamlit and gradio. Both of them are which we called a Python data science dashboard framework, which if you search the keyword Python data science dashboard framework, then you probably will finding out all these kind of things. And because Python is so popular in the data science or machine learning area, so you can simply search data science dashboard or data science dashboard framework. Then you probably will find a list of similar things, a list of similar frameworks that is similar to streamlit and gradio. But you can see that in Hugging Face, two of them are selected to separate from others. You can use others like the Prodigy Dash that we mentioned before, and using Docker perhaps. But gradio and streamlit are picked to be separated into upper level, top level menu here. So these two, especially gradio, because gradio is a Hugging Face product. So we're going to talk more details about gradio and other important frameworks. And also, we're going to have an assignment for these 3 weeks. So in these 3 weeks, we talk about the computer vision things in like OpenCV, Scikit image, a lot of functionalities in OpenCV and Scikit images, and we also talk about Hugging Face ecosystem. And this week we are going to talk about mostly about gradio and their uh, competitors, not friends but competitors. So we'll combine them together to be this assignment. So build a web AI app for computer vision function. Because later on you will see that gradio and streamlit or even like IPY widgets are very good to wrap up other function, Python function, to become a web UI interface. So this task is ask you to wrap up some computer vision functions, like blur or like edge detection, or maybe like you see the playing card example in our lecture to match a playing card to something else, something like that. You simply develop a simple web UI app that wraps up a computer vision function in either in Scikit image or in OpenCV. So because these functions usually takes an image as input, and also they have some other argument, like if you are doing the blur, there were some argument to adjust the level of the blurriness, or maybe like the sigma. If you are using Gaussian blur, there will be a sigma and like width of x width and y width. So you will also providing some control to adjust this argument in your UI, and then demonstrate the result, output the result on the same web UI page. Then after you develop this simple, maybe you just wrap up the blur function or edge detection function, then you serve it on Hugging Face space and using the free CPU virtual machine. So that's the text of this homework, which will show up in E3 platform, and we will go into more details a little bit later after we talk more about the gradio. So previously we have introduced something similar. One of them is the we're using the Matplotlib user interface to we talk about when we talk about Matplotlib, we say that the Matplotlib providing some functionality to have interactive usage. We actually showing you a video that demonstrates that you can develop a game-like system on Matplotlib alone, because it can accept the event that like mouse clicking or mouse position or maybe keyboard event. So if you listen to this, your app listen to this event, it can respond it directly on the graphics that the plot you are generated. So in principle, you can develop any apps you like on Matplotlib. However, Matplotlib and there's also like OpenCV UI. OpenCV also provides some user interface things, but both of them are not complete enough. Their functionality is not complete enough. They are not for general purpose. For certain kind of functionalities, you can use like OpenCV like user interface or like Matplotlib user interface to develop certain kind of things, but they lack of some useful widgets. So in principle, you can do that because you can implement anything like a slider, like a text input, like a button or anything you can implement and serving them with Maplib GUI or like OpenCV GUI, but they are not that practical. So although they have their place and they are useful in certain usage and we use them a lot, if we want to serve something with arbitrary or UI or arbitrary layout and to develop more easily, we need other framework. So that lots of kind of things and we still need something like the ability to show the graph, to show the plot, like what we can do in Maplib, or demonstrate some interactiveness, like what we do in the OpenCV or in Maplib. We want to have those kind of functionality, and plus we want to have a complete list of widgets like a slider, progressive bar, buttons, text input, or all these kind of things. And plus, if we can have a style, like a layout style, control the layout style of the app, that would be even better. So that's the idea of the dashboard framework served. That's the purpose what the dashboard framework serves. They allow you to develop some app. Because the web UI is so popular and easier. Although at the beginning we probably didn't worry too much about whether it is a native GUI or maybe even like a mobile GUI, or maybe it is a web UI. But most of the data science dashboard frameworks are presented as a web UI because it is so convenient. You can even connect it remotely. So all of the dashboard frameworks we are going to discuss or introduce are presented in a web UI format. So one framework we mentioned before is the Dash, Plotly Dash. When we introduced the Maplib and we talk about the Plotly, we also mentioned and discuss a bit about the Dash Plotly, a Plotly Dash, which if you can recall that it can develop some certain app and you have some control. It have a very rich component libraries, even if you want to develop something like image annotation. It do have image annotation widget that you can use it directly. Although it is not perfect, but if you want to add something like user interactive to some user interaction like annotation as input, image annotation as input, you can do that quite easily with Plotly Dash, and it can definitely, because it is developed around the Plotly library, the Plotly ecosystem. So it definitely can show a lot of rich plot based on the Plotly library, and they are interactive as day one because Plotly is most emphasis on the interactiveness of the plot. So that is the Dash, and it also has some certain like it says the extensive component library. For example, it has Bootstrap support, have the maintain component library support. So it serves. It is more aligned to the modern-ish web UI development. So you can have a pretty elegant, stylish look of your app. Even so, if you have the knowledge to design the CSS yourself, you can practically use any kind of style, apply any kind of style on your app. And it also has a very rich ecosystem. So there are a lot of different components. No matter what we want, I think it's probably like a 70 to 80% chance that you can find a component that suits your need. It also, the one extension that I use a lot is called the Dash extensions. I use something like event listener, event source, a WebSocket. Sometimes I even use like Lottie or Mermaid for like visualization certain of graph. But for the a Mermaid is for like a static. Mermaid, the output of Mermaid is kind of like this one, a flow diagram thing. It is very kind of visual pleasant, at least to a lot of people's taste. So it is quite useful. But I am using a lot of dynamic graph mostly. So I use more other library that is provide more dynamic function on the diagram. But if you all need is some static diagram, then Mermaid serves a pretty good functionality as it is. I use it sometimes, but most of the time I use other. What I mean is there are other libraries provides other functions, either for like just for this kind of diagram rendering. There are like 5-6 different components serve of different purpose. So if you are more like a graphics guy, graphics is GRAPHVIZ. It's also another popular diagram language. If you are more like if you are more used to or more comfortable with graphics, there are also not just only one, like 2 or 3 different method or component that support graphics. But I use more like network X and more dynamic graph more frequently. So there are also other libraries provide dynamic diagram rendering. So you can actually have some physics on this node that you can drag, and you will see some interactive usage on this graph. There are also some components to do so. And we also talk about space. It has a free hardware that you can host this kind of dashboard on it. Also, I'm just covering and recall that the stuff related to this topic we mentioned before. So right now we are going to talk about the Python dashboard UI frameworks. Although we mentioned similar things here and there before, but I intend to introduce the gradio last week, but in Hugging Face ecosystem, but we don't have enough time to cover everything. So I decided to move it to later because this is also I think it's also important topics that to develop things and demonstrate your work. Not only just to analyze the data, like we mentioned before, like using the pandas or using PyTorch to develop a model, or using like Hugging Face transformers to develop things. It's also important to show your works. So one way to do that is Jupyter Notebook, but Notebook is not. Notebooks can serve and explain more things, but it is not suitable for like total beginner, for general public. If we want to show to show your work to a more wide custom. They probably have no patience to actually run your notebook on a collab. They probably intimidated when they show a lot of different words or things. Although I think notebook is a pretty good media and user interface for like your fellow scientists or fellow researchers, but it is not good for to show it to like general public. So Python dashboard UI frameworks can fill this purpose. So here is a short list of the things that I sort of not exactly but sort of I put into this category, like gradio, product dash, streamlit, and NiceGUI. Gradio, product dash, streamlit are perfectly fit in this category. NiceGUI is a little bit more towards a general web UI development, not only for data science. It also provides certain component that is can do plotly graph, can do like show the data frame. It certainly has this kind of component. But I think the focus of NiceGUI is more on a more general and modern look of like a web app framework. But it has a huge overlap to the like a gradio plotly dash and the streamlit, and it is compared a lot to the streamlit. A lot of people think NiceGUI is something that address a certain limitation of the streamlit, but I think NiceGUI is more towards a full-fledged web UI framework. And there are also API widgets. Although API widgets only serve, like we said, only on the notebook, but it provides the notebook a more usabilities, so that it is possible that if you hide your code and only show the API widget, and although you still need your user to actually run this kind of thing, run the notebook, but it actually can provide certain, it is possible that you can provide certain UI very similar to that you can do for Gradary or PolyDash and streamlit. In fact, there are certain solutions to hide the code for you. One of them is Voila. The purpose of Voila is to turn an API widget to be something looks like a web UI dashboard, like Gradio, PlotDash, or like Streamlit. I have a screenshot at pretty late. I probably should put it more earlier, but I have a screenshot of which I have shown in last lecture. But I got a screenshot right here. Let me find out the screenshot. Perhaps like here? No. This is Gradio. So, okay. This is what you can do with the API widget. So I probably should put this to the front. Let me put it right here. Okay, so what I mean is you can do things like this is if you click on we have provided the homework link and the slide link on our course website, dss24.tjwei.tw, so you can find everything on there. So if you find the slides, you can click on this image. It will lead you to a source code. This is part of the notebook that I provided in a lecture about deep learning, specifically for the reinforced learning things. So this is a simple model to explain what grid wall is, which is a classical example in the reinforced learning things. Basically, you have your character here, your agent is right here. So every time you can explore like going up, going right, going down, and if you reach this reward, you win. You get something positive reward, and if you reach something like the boundary, you died immediately. You got a negative reward, and you encounter this skeleton head. Of course, it's showing that you get some negative rewards. So this is sort of like a simple game, and we develop an agent to learn, because it cannot see very far. It can only see what they encounter right here. So they only know their position. They cannot see there's something ahead of him. It has to try every grid to see what will happen. So this little component serves as an animation that can reflect what the agent is doing, and while it exploring the environment and learning. And also it contains simple control, like using keyboard or using these buttons to reset or to control your agent to go up, down, left, right. At some version, it also connected to a gamepad. Specifically, it's controlled to when I demonstrate, I connect a Xbox controller, probably the Xbox 360 one, because it has a USB connector. The original one does not have. But any gamepad works if it is supported by your PC, your Windows or Linux. If it is supported by, because your browser actually can take the gamepad input. This is developed like 10 years ago, probably more than 10 years. I don't remember, but roughly 10 years ago. So even back then, like 10 years ago, your browser has support of the gamepad game controller. So if your browser support the game control, any game controller that your browser support, it will take it. And Jupyter Notebook widget, IPL widget support the gamepad controller. There is a widget called the gamepad controller things. So you can use play it like a game. And also because there are other examples. Back then, OpenAI AI Gym, it connect to a lot of different classical games like Atari games or others like physics simulations. They can be also provided in Jupyter Notebook widget, and you can actually interact with it like using keyboard controller or like using a game controller, anything like that. So this is a demonstration of the web UI. Of course, you can also have a plot and have some layout to look pretty much like an app. And this is the demonstration that I showed last week. It is in fact a Jupyter Notebook, but after it served with Voila. It is Voila right here. And there's also another thing I haven't used it before, but it extend the Voila to have more functionalities. But if you serve these things with Voila, on every widget, it will actually, basically it will hide the code in the notebook and run the notebook directly and show only the widget and the output. So I can use this as a user interface. Like I when I press the go button, it will compute the probability for me, like this one. So although they are not exactly, when I click it will connect to the notebook hosted by the binder and powered by the Foila. So although they are not exactly the typical data science dashboard frameworks as the previous ones, but there are a lot of attempts to have similar functionalities, to achieve similar functionalities. So now let's talk about the gradio. Okay, here's an app. Let me show it a little bit. So you can move and change things, and the compute who wins, which setting wins, and so the probability of the rolling out result, and it will show in the percentage of each type of output, and showing the winning rate. So these are just print using the Python print to show on the what you do on Jupyter Notebook, and these are our widgets that in IPY widgets, and this is a button in IPY widgets. So after you click the button, it will call some Python function and the computer output. Even with this kind of things, like I exchange the position of these guys, even with this change, these are all done with Python code, and all of these are Python IPR widget buttons. So after I click these two buttons, it has certain functionality coded into the Python and run in a Python notebook. Okay, so let's talk about gradio. Gradio, here is a simple demonstration of what gradio is if you haven't used it before. The left side is the code of the gradio looks like. A gradio code looks like. You have blocks to define kind of like layout of your widget, and you can see you have a markdown and a row. Each row have a text box and a button, and also you have an image on the next row. You can see that it also at the button here, it also has, aside from the demo launch here, it has a click to define the action when you click the button. So after you click a button, it will do something. So that's more. There are two different ways to write code in Gradio. One is a high level way, more high level way, and this one is a more level way. But even with the more level way, you can see the code is quite short and clear. You define your UI inside your code, and you don't need to understand like HTML or maybe like JavaScript, but you can get a pretty decent user interface using only Python. And you get all the power of Python functionalities, like what Python can do with deep learning and everything else. So here is the high level UI that you can do. So if you have functionalities, if you have any Python function, I probably should not say any, but if you have a Python function, a lot of time you can actually wrap it pretty easily by using gradio interface. So here is a pretty simple function called a greet. It takes two arguments. One is the name and the other is the intensity. So and it returns also another text called the hello, and the name, hello someone, and it put the exclamation mark here by the intensity times. So it times intensity. If it is 0, it will not show any of the exclamation mark, but symbol. But if it has like 10, you will see 10 times of it. So this is just a Python function. Pretty easy. Has text input and integer input and text output. So what you should what you can do to use Gradio to make it an app, you simply just add this code here. The first code is called Gradio interface to wrap up this function to become an app. So we have an argument called fm, means function is a grid. And we define what the input and output type is. So the first input is a text. So we put the string right here. It is a text. And the second one, we want to input a number. There are various ways to input a number. Like maybe it has a box that you can type a numerical digits inside the input box. That's one way to do that. But instead, we can put a slider to control the number, to draw the slider and see to change the number. So it defines, okay, the first input, you need to give me some widget that I can input text, and the second, give me a slider so that I can input a number right here. So that's all. We give it two description of the input. It's sort of like a type hint, but because even we know that this is an integer input, there's still different way to actually input an integer. So they're slightly different, but it's sort of like a type hint. So in principle, if we put a type hint here, I'm not sure Gradio support it, but if we can put some type hint right here, and because type hint can be any free form, in fact. So it probably can, I mean, you can imagine that Gradio can support these kind of things to automatically deduct what kind of widget it should use. But the more typical way, and I think more frequent way to use it, is you just specify what kind of input it is, like it is a text, and we want to use slider right here. Of course, there are some options on the slider, like what is range? Do you want it to be integer only, or like you want it to be a floating number? There are certain different options to this slider, which we'll talk a little bit later. Also, we let it knows it has only one output, and the output is text. So that's all. We provide the bare minimum information that needed to be wrapped. Need to wrap this function, like what function is and what is the input. We want to, what kind of widget we want to use for input, and that's it. And finally, we use a function to tell the program we have done all the definition. You just launch this app, and it will serve a web server, and in default it will serve at the port 7860. It will show on the screen. If you are running this one on a terminal, it will show on the screen, and you can know which port it is, and you can use your web browser to link to this server, and you can see the user interface. So the result of this guy looks like this one. The name right here and the intensity is a slider, right here. You can see actually the digits on here. It automatically will give you a clear and submit right here. And when you submit, you will see your output right here. So if you write a given name right here and intensity like 2, you will get something like hello, your name, and twice of exclamation symbol. So that was a bare minimum example. We can have more control to the things that we want. Here's another example. Like we can actually, so if you are something like an image in, image out, you can, in fact, give something like a gr.image, or if instead of giving a string like name, if you wish to have more control, and the output here is also image, and the function here. So instead of giving a keyword argument, we can give positional argument if this is more suited to your style. But I think the interface is short enough, so I probably will prefer this style instead of positional argument. But this is more close to our homework assignment because it is more like a computer vision function here. Although it is not calling the OpenCV or Psyche image, but it is doing something to do the color things in it on an image. So it is image in and image out. So you can actually do something like this one, and it will look like this one. So you may wondering what will happen if we have an image input. The image input widgets look like this one. You can either drop an image right here or click it. It will show a interface to let you select a file. Because we are using a browser and they are actually a server, so the file upload has two steps. One is loaded, kind of loaded in your browser, and then, after you select the file or copy a file, it will first pass through your browser. Your browser will know, okay, I selected a file, and eventually it will send the information, the content of your file to the server. The server will receive it and do things. So after you drop your image here, it will show on this widget. And there are also other ways to do that by using a gradio image input widget. If you click this button, it will use the functionality of the browser to access your camera to take an image. Also, that's another way to input your image. So if you are going to program this directly from like other web UI frameworks, it probably will need you to do something to provide all this functionality because they are more for general purpose. However, because Gradio is designed specifically for certain type of usage, like most of its usage is provide a demo or like a interface to some deep learning project, or not only just data science, or not just only for data science. It mostly focuses on deep learning project. So it gives you all the default and everything you need. This is probably exactly what you need. And you, even if it is not exactly what you need, you probably will pretty satisfied of this setting. Even if you are not trying to use the webcam, you probably didn't mind because it is so simple to just write 2 or 3 lines. Even if it is not typical to use a webcam as an input, it probably can still use the webcam as an input, and you probably want to keep it as it is. So that's why Gradio is so popular, and the benefit of using Gradio. But if you this is not your intention, this is not your intent, because perhaps you are designing something other than a demonstration of a deep learning or data science project. This is probably not the behavior you wish to have. So this is probably not the right tool for you. But if you are you are just developing a demo for data science or deep learning, then the default is, I think the default is quite useful. Okay, so another thing you want to use is to have more control to the input widget, to the widget. For example, here we also have a slider to take numerical input, but instead of just put a string like a slider, which we can see like here, instead of using a slider, we give a more detailed control. Like we tell it the range is between 0 and 100. So we give it more detailed control to it. If we don't want to have more control, like what is the length, what is something like a callback, things like that, which we can simply use the default. But if you wish to have more control to your widget, it is possible. You don't use the string. You have to actually control the widget and give the detailed adjustment using the argument. So here's the result. You can see that the temperature slider is between 0 and 100 as our request right here. Also, even if you are using a gradio interface, you can still give an example section right here. We have 45 at 3, 3.14 divide 2. This means each of this content mapped to the each of the argument in order, because our calculator takes 3 input: number, function, perhaps a function or method, and the second number. Because this is a calculator, so it takes 2 numbers and an operation right here in the middle. So here are some examples that we can use, so we can provide it that because our purpose is a demo, and our target, unlike the collab or like a notebook, we are more focusing on the audience that has little clue. So we are trying to make our audience as comfortable as possible. So one way to do that is provide some example, so that it will not confuse or have to choose or decide what kind of input it should put. So we simply give the user some choice to see what the example is, to make it more user friendly. So as you can see, here are the example put right here. Here is a user interface. We have different options, the different number, and give some examples. Although in this calculator example, it doesn't make much sense. I mean, probably doesn't make much sense to have this example, because the operation is just one of these guys, and even if you don't put any number, just put 0 and 0, it probably will just fine. But still, you may hint the user. By given an example, even if in this scenario, by given the example here, you can hint the user the usefulness of this toy calculator. This one, the example is even more useful if you are using if you are demonstrating your deep learning model, because sometimes the deep learning model doesn't work that well outside of certain range of tasks. If you are not given the example, the user probably will try. If you are working on your model is working on a image input, the user probably doesn't know what is the right image to use. So, for example, if you have a deep learning model works on a human face, it probably will more suitable that the face is like at least half certain portion in the image, and probably more fronted to the view is more front view, not the side view, or like a lot of people or like small faces or this kind of thing. It probably works better for a more clear front niche view of a face. So when user want to try, maybe they don't have so one thing is maybe they don't have an image on their hand they can try. That's one scenario. They probably will simply give up and doesn't want to try your app. And secondly, they probably will have some image, but they probably don't have any idea of what kind of image it can use. They probably simply just feed in any image they have on their hand, and they probably will see, okay, this app doesn't. I don't know what this app doesn't work. They probably will have an idea. Okay, this. Then they have made a wrong conclusion because you didn't give an example. Or even if they have an idea, okay, this has to be a front face clear. They understand that, but they just don't have something provided on their hand. So they have no choice to use something more unsuitable. And they probably will still have a wrong conclusion to your model. So why not just give some example to make both of your life easier? Okay, so that's what the example is. So in our homework assignment, you will also provide some example to make your TA, teaching assistant, to grade your homework easier. You probably don't want the TA to find their. They probably will prepare some image. If you don't give an example, they probably will prepare. But this example is probably not useful to show your work. Okay. In fact, Gradio provide a lot of different useful high-level interface. One of them is the chat interface. So it will looks like a chatbot. So that's all you need to construct your chatbot. You only need to define the function that can give the response, and you will get some pretty neat UI for chatbot. Not perhaps not perfect, but that would be good enough for your usage. There is also one very useful function of the functionality of the Gradio. That is, it allows you to serve your demo with a public URL, even though this your machine that is running the model or running the app that is not accessible from outside world or like outside internet, because it is behind a firewall or something. It has a functionalities that can build a tunnel and give you a unique URL so that people can actually access your app, even though your computer is a laptop or anything that behind firewall that usually the outside world does not have a direct access to your machine. So this happens a lot because we are developing things. We're not uh, we are not usually serving a website or things. We probably will just writing using a VS Code or a GP notebook to design our model. And at some point, we need to demonstrate our work, and we find there is a trouble because we don't have a server. So one way to do that is, of course, using the Hugging Face space. But sometimes you just finish your developing and it works on your machine. You haven't figured it out to make a proper way to configure the environment, like a Conda environment or other environment. It will probably have involved some difficult tasks to install certain software, and you probably will need to demonstrate your result very soon to other people remotely. And this happens a lot. So one way to do that, the gradio provides a very useful functionality that is using the demo launch share equals to true. This one particular scenario that to make this functionality useful is when you run the code on a Colab service. The Colab is a machine behind is a virtual machine behind a firewall, and when you run the code like gradio, it will serve the app on a port in the virtual machine. But there is no way you can access to that port because that machine is behind a firewall. However, you can use this function and it will make a tunnel. And you can access to that port by accessing this URL directly. So that will make it very convenient. So instead of using the high-level interface, you can use a low-level method. I mean, low-level convention to write the gradio app. You use the blocks, gradio blocks as demo instead of you use gradio interface. This will give you more control to the app, and I don't think it is much more difficult to write things like this one, because if you are simply writing a pretty simple thing like this one, you can see that it's quite readable, and it is not longer than the first example, not much longer than the first example that we see on GR interface, the hello greeting things. Pretty much the same. But if you are trying to writing something like a chatbot, it will give you will have some more to do more works to make it more correct. But in that scenario, by using this one will make your life much easier. But it is still doable, and you have more control. You can control the layout, and it can have simply easier to have multiple interactions. You have a lot of freedom on your development. Also, that is one thing that I think people use more frequently. But in our homework assignment, you can either use the interface or using the blocks. They are all suitable for this purpose because we are only asking you to write a simple app, which probably the difficulty is probably similar, comparable to each other. So here is the result. You can see the layout is a little bit different than the interface one because we are simply put them one by one. But if you are using like a GR row or GR column, a gradio row or grade column, you will have the freedom to control the layout of your app. So if I think the most useful case for this thing is if the one is because the original layout of the interface is not suitable. I mean, you don't like it. By using the blocks, you have freedom to choose your layout. You have a different row, different column, like this one. Another thing is if you have multiple interactions, you probably will have to use the GR block to make a more complicated interactions. So here is some widgets that provided in the GR blocks things that you can use. Some widgets are does not make much sense in the interface, or so I think we for most time we probably will use a GR block instead of using the GR interface, except for very simple demo, very fast and very simple. I still use GR interface sometimes, but if you are thinking about to making this to be your app to be a more full-fledged usage, and you are intend to extend your app, you probably will start with a GR blocks. And all of these things are usable. Like it even has something like a 3D widgets to show the 3D object. Of course, it has image, HTML, the like a markdown. This common widgets people use, and it has plot. It can accept the matplotlib, plotly, and other format of plots like Altair or Bokeh. They support differently. They are a little bit kind of strange to use them because sometimes it doesn't work that well. Sometimes when I return the matplotlib figure, it doesn't work. But when I return a PLT, it works. Because I didn't use this type too much on the matplotlib, so I haven't figured out what is the right way to do so. I just have some experience, so that sometimes it doesn't work that well, but sometimes it works. But it works. It rarely to use as input component, but it can do so. It can do so. It also has something like more complicated, like a gallery. I think it has a gallery. All right, here, gallery, and it has a file explorer, and it also have a data set things you can find here. Like image editor, I think it has an image editor. Okay, image editor. So it has more complicated widget like image editor here. It also have some like UI widget like a button or things like models like like information warning things, all of this kind of thing right here. It also had I didn't put it in the slides, but it also has a debug mode. Also, it has a hard reload mode. That is, Because when we develop this type of apps, we probably will edit the code on an editor like a Visual Studio Code, and we wish to the app to update itself directly. So a lot of this type of app support hard reload, which is after you edit the code, the server will rerun and reload code immediately, and you will see the update result on a web browser separate to your editor. Also, that is the hard reload. Gradio and other frameworks also support hard reload, like PolyDash, or NiceGUI. They all support hard reload. Okay, so two of the critics about the there are a lot of critics about Gradio. One is how what is the freedom of it, and I think it's good enough, although it does not have all the functionality like a general web UI framework. It has a tab interface. You can have a tab interface. You can have control column and the rows. For me, they are probably good enough, but still, they kind of still looks a little bit non-flexible. I mean, when you see a thing that is built with Gradio, you probably will know, okay, this looks like a Gradio app. Because they just look like, okay, we're not saying it ugly. We're just saying like it looks like this one, and it look like this one. It's not that bad, but it's just sort of like boring or like not stylish, kind of like fast food, or like the things that building from factory, not something. Sometimes you relate these things like a low quality, because a lot of people building these things, because they are when they use it, they want to build things quickly. So this kind of app usually correlated to poor user experience, sort of poor user experience. Although they have improved a lot from what if we don't have the Gradio. If they develop something without Gradio, they probably will have much poor user experience. It has already come a lot from that kind of experience, but still, comparing to a well and a carefully designed app, you probably will feel it is still kind of like lacking the good user experience. So when you see something like this one, you probably would immediately, especially if you use it a lot, you probably immediately relate it to more poor user experience. So you probably will wish to have another style. I mean, it's just a feeling, but when people seeing Gradio style things, they probably will just feel the feeling that I will just mention before. Another thing is we probably will relate the Gradio interface to a slow things, because sometimes we run something, it will take several minutes to finish one task. It is mostly not the fault of Gradio, because a lot of tasks of the deep learning take some time. But still, we probably will think it is not good for real time. Both of them are sort of fixed, have certain solution to it. One thing is the style. The Gradio actually supports certain style. So one trick is you select an unusual style, not a usual style to the general Gradio things. So although it is still Gradio, people will probably say this one. People will, and maybe you make it to be a less common layout. So people will kind of trick people's mind to think it is not developed by Gradio, and probably have more better, like a better. So if we remove the things right here, you probably have a different feeling about this app a little bit, and so that's a trick. So if you are more towards more elegant, more like other color themes, like you can do that. So this is with a lot of, without the original color theme, and also you can make it to be a dark one. So have a different feeling about what the user experience is. You can force it to be a dark one if you wish, and the dark one kind of feeling more professional. But Pico use a lot of dark theme for Gradio apps already, so this is not I don't think this one is definitely a solution right here by simply picking a dark theme. But you have freedom to change the style of Gradio, so you can use that. And another improvement is it actually have a lot of advanced functionalities. So if you see this one, because we have a different gradient things, this looks a little bit different than the usually the common Gradio apps you have seen before. It's more like a modern design for this website directly. For this website, so you can probably to do similar things to get rid of the Gradio feeling, Gradio style of your app. But the point right here is that it actually has certain features that are quite advanced. They are really putting some effort to do so. I don't think they are still they are already doing everything you need. They provide everything that you probably want. It is not true. It provides like 80% what you want, but it do have certain interesting provided. One thing is the streaming input and streaming output. Let me show you the streaming output things. This is I think okay. So here's an example of the streaming output. You can see that it will show the dynamic output in progress. So let me put it in more steps to emphasize the streaming things. So you can see that the noise is changing at each step. So it is quite good for the diffusion output. Instead of things that just typical to the Gradio, that it take around 30 seconds to finish generating an image. If you're showing the generation in progress, it will give you a different user experience. Of course, this one is just a toy example. Also, but you can see that this one is very advanced and can improve a lot of the user experience. And it also has streaming input. So for example, if you have a very long input like audio, like video, and it takes a while to upload the things, to process the things, then you can use the streaming input so that if you pair with streaming output, you can do something like transcribing your speech in real time. Also, that's quite good. And it also has progress bar. You can see that, and it give you a more better user interface, but it doesn't show much right here. But it can do that. But this demo, I don't think it serves it properly. the styling is what we were talking about. And there's a styling sense. You can choose a different theme. And if you are getting creative, there's one. It is possible to make the style that is dramatically different to the ordinary gradio app. Here are the gallery, like we said before, like party dash, like other like map party. One way you can to do this is not gallery. Sorry, there is a gallery you can see, and there's a playground you can play with to see a lot of different uh, possibility or potential. Um, it took a while, but here is a component library. Here is a component library to show you the rich component that provided in the Gradio ecosystem, like a calendar, a Marico today, audio things, leaderboard, or like highlight and code, GPT chatbot, chat PDF, a lot of different components that you can use with your Gradio. So here is something, and you can actually search different component right here. Like if you wish to do something with a PDF, you can see a lot of that. If you wish to do something with chat, you simply use chat to fill out. You can see a lot of different components right here. So here is a playground. Also, it's very easier for you to explore the functionality of a Gradio of what it provided. I believe the functionality is quite. I don't have much complaint to the widget it provided. It provide most of the useful things, even with 3D or image edit. So most of the, if you are not trying to do things too, too niche, it probably will be quite enough library for you. But it certainly lacks certain things, like if you want to develop a no-code editor, that is, you have let me just search for you the no-code something like Convy UI or like a node editor things, flow editor things, which you can see like in Blender or in Convy UI. These sort of things, or even if you want to just like an interface to edit a graph, or this is a typical no code or let me search the images. I regard it just didn't get the full image. Okay, this one is good. View image. I want to fill the image in another tab, but okay, open the first one. Open image in a new tab. So here's a typical thing that for no code editor. If you want to have this certain thing, it doesn't have one. And if you want to have a image annotator, it probably can fulfill certain of your need, but sometimes it doesn't. If you have some certainly it probably doesn't quite right to your purpose. So it do still have certain limitations. But aside from those kind of niche requirement, it is good enough for what it can do, and it already provide a quite rich library component library. Even though if you want to demonstrate something in 3D, it has component to do that. So I don't have much complaint about the richness of its component. And it's still quite a little bit tedious if you want to make the style right, but it is doable. Also, gradio, I think, and I think it will have a very bright future in because of its ecosystem. So this is definitely something you want to try. Um, worth something to invest your time to learn it. One thing is because it is quite useful even in current state, and I kind of believe it will become better time by time. So that's probably what we will discuss about Gradio. Before we go into introducing other frameworks, let's talk about the homework to about detail of homework requirements. So like we mentioned before, it is an assignment to build a web UI app for computer vision functions and hosting it on Hugging Face. So it combined with the materials we covered in last 3 weeks. So what are the requirements for this assignment? Then first one, you can use a web UI framework. I'm expecting you to use Gradio. Like I said, I believe Gradio is the correct choice if you want to choose only one framework. I like NiceGUI, I like PolyDash, I kind of like Remy, which I haven't used it a lot. I have to use a lot of different framework, and I also kind of like flet. But Gradio is, regionally, Gradio is probably the right choice. If what I can see currently, it is the right choice. I'm not 100% sure, but I think Gradio is certainly one of the correct choice. One evidence is it is served kind of like a default since you can use in Hugging Face. But so I'm expecting you to use Gradio, and I will put more focus on Gradio. But alternatively, you can use other frameworks like streamlit if you prefer, or you like PolyDash or other things if you can do so. But it will take more effort to do so. So, but I mean, if that is what you want, we certainly doesn't have any limitation about it. But Gradio and hosting, as long you can hosting it on Hugging Face and provide the acquired user interface, and that's fine. And secondly, you have to use either Scikit-image or OpenCV. I'm going to limit you to use at least some functions in Scikit-image or OpenCV. Although I have mentioned there are other libraries for computer vision, but I think OpenCV and Scikit-image is quite enough to do so. So this one is limited. You have to use either some function in Scikit-image or some function in OpenCV. But the framework, you can use Gradio, PolyDash, or any other as long as you can hosting on Hugging Face. But for the computer vision function, you can use one or many of them combined together to have a functionality on it. Because usually computer vision tasks involve with many different functionality together. So if you want to make it useful, you probably will have combine different functionality together. But it is totally fine if you just wrap one function. But this function has to have some limitations. One is it will have an image as input, and it will at least have one more or two more parameters that you can adjust so that you can have a slider or text input or maybe like a numerical input anything that you can add some control, because I want you to show an app have more than one control. The first one is the image, but it will have another like a numerical. Typically, it is numerical control. For example, if you are doing the image segmentation or doing the edge detection or line detection or image imprinting, they all have certain other adjustment parameters. So I want to have it so that you can make an app to quickly explore the functionality and do simple experiment to see what this function do. So that's the purpose of this app. And then use the web UI framework to build a simple web UI app. So you have a image here and a slider right next to it, maybe 2 or 3 slider, or maybe some checkbox to check the, or maybe some selection, or like if you are trying to resize an image, that's a function in scimage. Although I think it's too simple, but it is a scimage function, an OpenCV image. But when you want to resize the image to a larger one, it will generally provide different method like a linear, nearest, or like a bilinear things, or there's those different methods to do that. So this one can be a drop-down menu or checkbox so that you can select different methods. So things like that are the other control. So you have an image and the control to control your function and show me the result output. So that's a total things. Okay, so it must have an image as input, and has adjust parameters like threshold, edge detection, or things. And another thing that is in the requirement is that you have an example section. So have a curated list of examples. The full reason is, one reason is, of course, like we mentioned before, it is good for user experience. But the crucial reason for this one is if you don't provide the example, the teaching assistant will have a hard time to grade your homework because they have to access to your Hugging Face space and they don't know, they will have to upload the image and do a lot of different things and adjust things. That will be too difficult. So please provide several like say 3 examples that TA can quickly examine and see that your app actually works. So that's all I want people, I mean, the TA can verify that your apps that really works and your, I mean, the adjustment of your slider is actually has different effect, not just decorate. the slider actually can adjust effect to the output. Also, because the need of grading, please do not make the app to respond too slowly. So one hard limit is you should not make your app to respond more than 1 minute, because 1 minute is just too long. It will take too much time to grade and to see. I mean, the teaching assistant TA might want to try like several different examples to see, okay, it's run properly. So if each of the response takes 1 minute, and if they want to try like 10 or 10 different results, and it will take like 10 minutes. And plus, they will have to have some time to open your app, to link to them, and to do a grading. And they will probably have like 40 students. This will take too much time. So please just make the response as fast as possible. Probably 1 minute is too long. So typically I would expect something like less than 20 seconds. Less than 20 seconds. But 1 minute is the hard limit. Just be nice to your teaching assistant. So it definitely doesn't want something to take like 10 minutes to run. That will take too much time for TA to do to grade your homework. Hosting, you have to host it on the Hugging Face space because it is a free service. And you can use a free CPU virtual machine. You of course you can choose to a paid machine, but I kind of force you to choose the free machine right here. So please just use the free machine right here. I don't want you to. You can do other projects if you want to pay for Hugging Face. You are free to do so. But for this homework, I don't want to make it controversial. So just use the free machine. So if there are some reason that you are unable to use Hugging Face space, because this is a remote service, I mean service on for third party, please let the TA know. I cannot think the scenario that you are unable to use it, but it is possible. So if you really have some trouble to actually register or to use Hugging Face space for any reason, let the TA know beforehand. Okay, for a submission, there are several required fields that you need to submit. First is the app's URL, and the third is the screenshot. And also, please provide a Docker command. You can find on the Hugging Face space page. There's a 3-dot menu or hamburger menu. I forget what it is, but you can find the information about the Docker command on your Hugging Face space. Also provide, because there are possible some situation where teacher assistant is unable to access to the app. Also, this one can be as a backup plan that they can download it and run it locally. And also, here is kind of like the things that I wish you to know about Hugging Face space. This part of the material that we covered in the last lecture. So I think this is a quite good functionalities for the Hugging Face space. So I wish you to at least have the ability to access to this information. So that's the detailed discussion about description about our homework number 4. So in the remaining time of this lecture, we are going to talk about other frameworks. So first one is the IPY widgets, which we have already shown a simple example that I made before. But let me put more details about the IPY widgets. So if in case you haven't used it before, you just install the IPY widgets in pip, and you can actually get the widget things right here. It provides a lot of different components that you can use interactively, and it uses the notebook mechanism of display things, so you can display the widget. When you construct the widget, you can actually display it in the notebook. You can see things like this one is a slider, like this one, and it has a functionality to call back to a Python function. When you change the value right here, it will have the ability to call back to a Python function and to update its result or connect to other component. It is quite interesting architecture. So you can see it actually write the flow graph right here. But it is more complicated than that, because you can imagine the widget is on the HTML page. It is not it is even a miracle. It can send some message back to the Python code. Does it even know which Python code to run, and how does it communicate to the IPython kernel? A lot of different technical issues need to figure out. So it is quite interesting to do that. But what I want to show you is it has a very rich library of the widgets. Also, here are some of the widgets, like a numerical widgets, like a slider. It contains like integer slider and float slider. You can see right here, and it also has a vertical slider. As here you can see, even with the slider widget, it is already covered in a very rich variety of different things, even with like range slider. So definitely it has been used by people so that we can have this sort of different test or variety slider that is less common. So people actually use them a lot. And it also have like a progress things, like you can actually input it by text or like up down adjustment buttons. And it also have a text things. You can input like floating numbers or integer. Also, like a Boolean input things, it has a toggle button like this one, and the checkbox like this one. Like valid or invalid to provide the to display it whether it is a Boolean value. It is not an input, but it can display things in more stylish and human readable ways to do so. And it also has like a drop down menu. So I will consider it is quite rich and useful collection of widget. You can not just show it down. You can see a lot of them, like a password, and HTML, HTML. It can do mathematics right here to display things, and it can display image and button. Even it has support for animation. It is more generic animations, not only to do the image animations, because this is a widget that can have some callback to other widget, so you can update the image, so make it a video, or you can do like connect it to a like a plot. It will have a plot animation. So this one is animation. It works like a time callback. So it will actually call back to a function for each time interval. Just very rich. You can just see like a file upload controller. Controller is the game controller widget that I mentioned before. It actually supports game controller. It also supports some layout like a box, Hbox, Freebox, Gridbox. So that's how I made the like a Greek word user interface in IPL widget, because it can control layout. It also have something like this one for layout to make a more stylish and useful user interface, and it actually supports tabs. So combine it with the Voila, you can actually provide a really useful interface for the web interface by using IPL widget alone. And I do think the style is more stylish, more elegant than the one that is appears for the gradio. I mean, the gradio is sort of modern style. It has a round round edge button things and kind of like a vivid color, like orange color thing. But for the reason that I think people use a lot of gradio and see a lot of just see too many gradio apps already, so they kind of feeling the boredness or like what I said, like related this style to a crappy app because there are just too many apps. So there must be a lot of portion of apps that kind of not focusing on the usefulness. Probably well related to a gradual thing to an innovation of the like a technology in a way, like a modeling, like a deep learning model or like algorithm. We kind of related to that. That is a possible relation, a correlation. But we probably will correlate them to a poor useful user interface. I mean, poor user experience. So that is also true. So when you use more like this style, although this is arguably more traditional style, you probably will feel it like more in a different feeling than what you will see in a gradio things. So they are also using a Jupyter display to output the widget, and there are some functionality. The most difficult part is to actually to connect the signal between them. I'm not going to detail for this one, but for the practical usage of it, you can link to the example that I gave before. Let me go back a lot. Okay, this example, I provide certain simple, especially this one. You are probably not seeing this, the interactiveness right here, but you can see a simple way to connect everything together to control everything. This one is a simple example to do so. You can see the code is not too long, and it already can connect like a lot of different buttons to connect to each component to have an interactive user experience. So you can check this one. Based on this one, you can find more advanced usage. They will involve more coding and understanding. Kind of like a little bit tedious if you want to do it more customized way. But if you want to do simple interactions, even with the things that like this one, you can control a character up, down, or like more interactive things. You combine this one with the animation widget. That is quite pretty much all you need. Okay, so let's go back to the Jupyter notebook here. So it has a callbacks that you can connect each of them together. And some of them you might want to integrate, to ask the ChatGPT for certain edge case or certain functionality. Because you can see that it can be very, very complicated if you want to do something that is really complicated. But with something easier, just refer to my notebook. There's also a high level. If you're not really into the details, or you don't want to just want to try it to do really quick prototyping, you can use Interact right here, or basic Interact right here. It's sort of like the gradio interface, because at the beginning you have a function, and you simply wrap the function by this interact. That's all. Kind of like what you do for the gradio interface. It will to parse your function to find out what it is. Like here, we give a default value of x equals to 10. So it well know that the input type is a number and it is an X. So we give a function and what the input is. We don't need to give an output because the output will dynamically show right here. So when we change this guy, if it is running in a notebook, this will change accordingly to these things. And if you input your input as a Boolean value, it will have a checkbox. And similarly, if it is a text, it will have an input box. But similarly, you can use things like more specifically, like what you do, like in gradio. For example, if you are using a number input, you can actually doing a more detailed description of what the input is. Like it is integer slider. The minima is -10 to maxima 30. The step is 1. You can do a full detail control, the fine control to this widget. That is pretty similar to a gradio. I'm not sure gradio is inspired by the IPO widget, but they do share the similar approach to high level, and not so similar to the low level, but they both have a high level interface and low level interface, and the high level interface is very similar to each other. The low level interface for the IPO, they are using HBox, FreeBox things, and for the gradio, they use row and column things. So that's a little bit different, but still kind of similar. So if you wish to use this widget and you want to build a more user-friendly interface, you can use Voila. Here is an example of what Voila is. This is just a Jupyter notebook. It may have different cells, and you can run it by Voila. It will only take the output here and hide all the code. So even though if you have many different widgets, different cells, it will build the web app for you. So for example, in here, the first cell, the output is a slider, and it is has a callback to show the result. And the second one is a data frame. So no matter what, it simply uses Voila command line to run the Jupyter notebook. Then it will automatically becomes sort of okay, like a demonstration things. The style is kind of plain, but you can put more styling on it because it is doable. Just use the styling on it. You will have any style you want, and it's quite easy. And I think it's more suitable for your notebook flow if you are more familiar with the Jupyter notebook. But I don't think Voila is that popular. I only use it for a short time, like the demo, the dice demo, the poker dice demo that I show you. That's one thing that I remember, that I keep from that time period. After that time period, I haven't used it too much, but it definitely works. I don't think many people use it, but I still think it is very suitable for your notebook flow. I don't use notebook that much recently. I use VS Code. I use scientific mode, but I don't use the IPI widget that much. So that's why I didn't use it. But back to the time I used notebook as my major primary development environment, that is the time I think Voila is quite useful. So here are some examples that you can check. If it actually have a very useful, a lot of the examples are quite useful. You can actually check about them. So here is the page, and the interesting thing is it is hosting on some other. I'm not sure it is using a binder, but it is hosting on some other service that probably I'm not familiar with, but it has some interesting service that it can host its notebook on it. But it just takes too much time to launch, kind of like a binder. But it do demonstrate the capability of this approach. Like you can even show in something 3D. Another thing is called the Jupyter Flex that I haven't used before, but it definitely marketing or advertisement as a companion, a dashboard for Jupyter, kind of like formula, and it actually uses the formula in it. So the resulting things is, I think, I'm not sure I'm right, but I'm correct, but I think it provides something more easier to do the styling and to do the layout on top of formula. But this is one example that you can see what it looks like. I didn't get too much about the interactivities right here, but I used to have try something. Okay, you can do some interactivity in a plot. If that is all you want, in fact, IPL widget has a very rich library of the component. So that is one choice that you have. But I probably will more encourage you to recommend more the things that is really using like a gradio or NiceGUI or other party dash. I think this kind of framework only works if you are really tight into the Jupyter notebook workflow. If that is the case, then you consider it. Other than that, you probably will consider other framework to have more freedom of things. So there are more frameworks. Here is a website that lists them a lot of things. I used originally I visited this website in this form because I read in some like Reddit or things, I forget. But originally this is the original version I read it. But I think the other one is probably the more updated one. It classify the different frameworks into class A, class B, class C, and class other. Class A is more full functionality, have more full-fledged functionalities, more like even with can build a full website, like user login things, all the functionalities. But class B frameworks is probably good enough. The class C is different than class A and B. It's probably less mature and less useful, or more suitable for a niche situation. So let me give you a quick walkthrough to these things, and we will focusing on more on some of them, like NiceGUI flat, perhaps just NiceGUI and flat that we're more focusing on. But let me give a quick overview of what the four all the rule of the gallery of different frameworks that provided. So one thing that you can see that there are a kind of a very long list of this dashboard framework indicate that people really need this sort of functionalities. People want to use Python to build apps without using other like JavaScript or like HTML or other like other things. They want to use Python and build like a web app or like an app in general. The other thing is there's no one library that dominate and suitable of every needs. So let's just look through all these libraries. The first one listed in the Class A framework is Panel. This is one of the famous apps and frameworks that I didn't use. So it is built on Bockup, and I think I heard it a lot, but the thing is I didn't use it. I choose like gradio. I use gradio. I use flet a little bit, and I use the NiceGUI a while, and I also use PyDash a lot recently, but I haven't used Panel. There are some reasons that I choose one instead of another. Most of it because the test of the coding style, but they are all very choice, and I think this one also. I believe this one also have a very healthy ecosystem and community, but I cannot talk too much about it. But this one is a famous one that is also a dashboard that may be a suitable choice. Another few options are based on Django. Django is a Python framework for building a footage website. A very it has its own ecosystem. And a lot of people using it. I won't use it for many reasons because Django has its own language. It uses Python, but it has its own ecosystem, and the ecosystem is not so well integrated with other ecosystem in Python, because a lot of functionality you have to have a Django adoption before you can use it in Django. If you are simply using something like machine learning capabilities or other things, that's probably fine. But for the realm, for the field that Django is dealing with, like website or like ORM, like a database system, you probably will have to have an adapter before you can integrate into a Django app or ecosystem. Otherwise, you have to communicate it with like a API or other things. That is language independent. You can in fact use writing it in Rust, in Go, or in other things because you are communicating with an API. But if you want to integrate things together, that will be for something like a dynamic web dashboard things that will be a little bit difficult to do so. So otherwise, you will have a dedicated front end server. That will be totally defeat the purpose. What we wish to do in data science dashboard. We want to make it in one piece. If you will have a front end and back end separations, then you probably just learn how to do the full programming. And if you want to use, you probably don't even need to use the Django to do the front end things. So that's totally separate to the Django. If you want to do Django with the dynamic dashboard things, you can actually do so. So there are some, but you have to have another framework based on Django. So here are some like Hypergen, the Django with HTMX. HTMX is an Employee. So HTMX and Employee are tools that you can actually use HTML things to do the kind of like a standard way to write things in HTML without a custom JavaScript. Like you can define a button and connect to some actions just by using HTML tags, things like that. So it provides some functionality on Django to support them. And Django and HTML over wire and Django live views. It more like the things so that we can update, because when we talk about the dashboard, data science dashboard, we are talking about some things. One thing is that it can show something like data science output, like a plot, data frame things. Another thing is it has some interactivities. So it actually adds some dynamic functionality over the Django. Also, these are the things. So they are, I believe they are quite good project. But if you want to use this in this way, everything has to be adapted into the Django ecosystem. You cannot use other ORM. You have to use Django ORM. Everything has to work in Django way. I don't believe that is, unless you are already have a really huge code base that's based on Django, that you have to do so. But if you are a data scientist, it's probably not the scenario. So, but anyway, if you are forced into have to use in Django, then there are some options. It's probably not what you are currently at, but if you are forced into in this situation, there are some options for Django. Other than that, it probably probably don't need them. And they are also based on Flask. I think it makes more sense because this is also HTMX and Unparty integration to the Flask. This makes more sense because Flask is more free. You have more freedom in Flask to choose different ORM, different. The Flask is more integrated. It has less functionality, but it is more easier to integrate in other systems. So if you have already a data science focusing environment and setting, it is easier to use Flask into the system. Especially you won't have a potential to make it to be a more like a server-like thing. And the dashboard is something more like prototyping and demonstrate what you want, and you are intended to hire some like front-end engineer, back-end engineer to do more things. This is just prototype. Then this is probably a way to do so. Okay, so aside from the Django and the Flask things, there are something more like to gradio or like the panel or like party dash. Reflex is one thing. It used to call the Pinecone. It's sort of difficult to search it from Google, but it has a link right here. And probably you should link to the GitHub page, because the other project web page is a little bit confusing. It is more like what it was before. I think it has some have some funding success like in last year, and get a lot of, like from Y Combinator or things like that. It has some really good fundraising things. It actually, a lot of people like it. I haven't used it a lot, but I think it is a little bit more complicated if you really look at the code. But it is a fair choice, and from what I heard, it actually had a very healthy community and actually very active communities, at least back last year. But in this year, I'm not so sure because I haven't heard it a lot. I think it is still developing and it's a failure choice, but I don't have too much comment on it. And from what I have actually tried a little bit about it, I cannot say I don't like it, but I would say I prefer what I like a nice GUI or like I prefer a nice GUI. Backlamp. But I have some other reason to leave from NiceGUI. There's some comparison to NiceGUI and the streamlit in Reddit thread. Some of them, the comment, or maybe most of comment are from the author of a NiceGUI. So they may be a little bit biased. But I mean, this is still a very choice option that you can try. It just I'm not choosing it right now. That's all I'm saying. But it is something similar to that you can see. And the reason that I didn't try it is probably because it web page. It is okay web page to see here. But when I press get a demo, I get something I need to log in. So that's I'm not even get a login. I get I'm a little bit confused of what and a little bit uncomfortable to provide more information. Probably nothing, but I sort of a little bit confused. I probably should just like this start building. It's still totally fine, and you can see a lot of demo code and the blog post. It seems just fine. But I, for some reason, I didn't feel that comfortable, and I have other choices that I'm totally fine with. So that's the only reason that I didn't use them. But if you like it, that is in fact totally without any issues. That I believe it is actually a very popular choice that you can. I have no reason to believe that is anything can go wrong. And it has an application gallery. You can see it. Okay, it also have a pricing here. Because it is a company based thing, so that is totally fine. It just like what I said, I have other choices. I haven't heard here too much about Luna, and I won't discuss it too much. And the Solara, what I will going to talk about is a nice GUI. You can see that a lot of comment here. The reason that I like NiceGUI is the coding style. It has been compared to the Streamlit. It is built on fast API, and I think a few like well established libraries and the works. It had also a lot of comparison between other frameworks like Flet, like Reflex, which was known as Penacon, and Streamlit, of course. Okay, let's see a nice GUI page. So just that I can show you why I like it. First of all, is a style. It out of box, it has a very clean, stylish style. The coding style, I mean, the style is in both like in the visual style, the UI style, and also in the code style, which we haven't seen it right here. But it you can see that the coding style, it uses a Python with things like here. This everything, if you are developing something that is a little bit more it contains a little bit magic inside it, because you have a with and everything is in the code right here. So there's some Python magic right there. But the fact is the code itself is kind of clean comparing to Priority Dash, or maybe even to all other frameworks, even to the Gradio. It has a very clean workflow. I think it's comparable to the Gradio, but it's definitely much cleaner than the one in Priority Dash. You can see it. What you see in the code is what you get right here. That's one thing, and the style of the things is more visually pleasant for me. I think people have different tastes, and the coding style is also, I think, it's readable. The documentation, yes, I think it's adjust a little. I have been adjusted, but the thing is, it have a very rich component. For here, I'm not that used to this document style, but I know what it is. I kind of understand why it designed in this way. But what I'm trying to show you is it has a very rich and detailed library of a component, kind of like IPOH for the slider. So even for one slider, it has different tests of different slider, which demonstrate that it really consider in different scenario of using the similar things. For one thing, for the text element, it has a lot of different text elements, like the chat text, generic element, a markdown element, restructured text things. Here is a really huge hint for people that is kind of care about the styling, is design this kind of thing. Because markdown and the restructured text are pretty similar things, and I think markdown is more popular. But when people choose to use restructured text because it is logical, they more like it. So there are people that is more care about the style things, tend to use restructured text. So it also supports restructured text, and it also have mermaid diagram HTML element, a lot of different HTML element. And for the control part, it has a button, a different type of button group, or drop down button. Also have badge. What is badge, you may ask? The badge is right here. It has chips, toggles, all those these kind of the control component that you know or you may not know. It has been provided in here. Most of the widget are, it has a lot of different widget right here. You can see a lot of different things, even with like joystick things, like file upload is quite range. It also can show like code mirror, show the code. It is a highlighter for different code that is called mirror. All this kind of thing. And you may wonder what is a knob. A knob is something like this one. You can, like a door knob, you can turn it and change the things. Kind of like slider, but in a circle. Okay, so the reason is why it has a huge rich component is a lot of the widget is based on the quasars. Quasar is a library that provides a lot of different component that has like what I will show in the maintain component library for, or like in the Priority Dash. Quasar is, I think it's built on the Vue.js system. Provide some modern control component that you can use on your app. So depends on the environment and the style you have, but I think they provide a very safe and good style that you can choose from, and it provides a very detailed and fine collection of components that you can use. So by using it, you can automatically give your app a style and functionalities. It also have a library for the so the text element and HTML element and controls. It also have audio, visual elements, data elements like a data frame or other things. It has the functionality to do a lot of like binding things together to call back to each other, to chain each component together to have a very rich interaction and effect, dynamic effect on your app. It also has different styling and appearance options to fine tune, to customize your app styling. So that's why I actually like it. So let's see more about the element that is used for visual image. So even for image, it has different type of interactive images, but I don't think the functionality is suitable for every need. It definitely have some interactive images like this one, but and you can do certain action activity, but it requires more coding. If you wish to do like image annotation, like bounding box or like segmentation things, it requires some work. So this is not. It doesn't provide everything you need for data science. It is not. I think NiceGUI is more focusing on the styling and the app part. It's not. It also put some effort on the data, like data science things, because it provides certain widget for data, uh, but and the plot, it also support plotly plot, but it is not that, because it's focusing on both of sides, not exclusively focusing on data science. So it doesn't provide the sense that, so comparing to the plotly dash, it doesn't provide that much component for data science. It doesn't cover that many different usage in data science. It's more focused, but if the styling is more your thing, the NiceGUI can let you design a more modern app than probably all other frameworks. But that being said, it actually provides a quite rich of things that you might want to use. Like you can actually provide showing SVG. So even though it only provide like mermaid, but because of SVG and you can put some like binding and dynamic things on it, it is possible to show any other dynamic like graph by using SVG. But it's just possible, but not easy way to do so. Perhaps not easy way to do so. Also, let's see the data element. It provides like edge grid to show a large table and showing plot, and it actually support the plotly and the matplotlib. The the thing about the matplotlib is that usually, even of this library support it doesn't support the dynamic and the interactive functionality of matplotlib. So you are mostly stuck with static images, static plot, or very limited and uncustomizable interactiveness. Plotly actually provide very customizable and very interactive things. But aside from Party Dash, a lot of functionality only supported by the Party Dash. Even though the NiceGUI support partly element, a lot of functionality is not workable or have to be require a lot of different works if you want to use it with NiceGUI. So that is the reason that I give up NiceGUI and go to the Party Dash. Even though I don't like comparing to NiceGUI, I don't like the coding style. I think it is more cumbersome. But for the functionality that I require, I need, I want to have in my app, I have to use Party Dash to have the full feature for the property graph that provided in the property graph library. So I have to go to use Party Dash. I'm not that I still think the style is pretty important, but comparing to the functionalities, I would choose functionality instead of the styleness. But if the functionality here is suitable for your usage and you really like the styleness, that is one of the important. You want to show something in a competition. You want to impress the judge. The first thing you need to do is probably the style, because that is the first impression of people to your app. You want to have a professional feeling, but you don't have the time to hire a front end the designer. Then this is probably a choice that you can have, because by default it will have a pretty good design and stylish design. Okay, there are also like React PY. I don't think I haven't used it, and I've heard that much. And for MVO, it is a commercial one, I guess. And it has editor. I believe it has it has an editor. So if you don't want to write code, it has an editor, so it can do pretty good job on it. But it is, and also it is built on Sculpt. Sculpt is a browser client-side Python. So it is writing Python, and somehow it is interpreted or translated into JavaScript and can run on the in a browser like a JavaScript. So it use this guy to like integrate to your other Python things. There are two major choice of client side, browser client side Python, that kind of like a replacement of the JavaScript. One is Brython, Brython, and the other is Sculpt. So there are some solutions based on Brython or Sculpt, and MVO seems like one of them. Of course, there's Party Dash that we introduced a little bit in the beginning of this lecture and in previous weeks. Okay, another thing that is interesting is flet, which I give a slide here. Not much, but just these things, and give a link to it. It is, in one word to talk about it, it is a Python Flutter. If you familiar what Flutter is, then that's pretty fine. That's one word describe what the flet is. It is using Python to write Flutter. So what is Flutter? Flutter is a library platform library to build mobile app. It can build like iOS app, Android app, and it can also build a web app. It is very popular. The language behind it is Darts, D-A-R-T-S, Darts. Another language, not a JavaScript, but it's a Dart language. This is Google's product for cross-platform mobile app design. To solve the cross-platform needs is very difficult job. There are many different ways and different compromise between them. So, but if you only focus on one platform, it is still a pretty good solution. But you have to actually realize that Flet actually draw a lot of things on a canvas. So it has a lot of components that are designed sort of not native, but designed primarily or dedicated to the Flutter platform. But because it is a wild use library, so everything, the good thing is you are getting a Flutter level style. So if you don't like NiceGUI, another way to write a more modern style app using Python is using Flet, because it is based on Flutter. You are getting some professional level. You are going to get some professional level component style, more towards the app style. But I mean mobile application style. But that's fine because people are used to and more used to mobile apps. So and we are more correlated this style to a more professional app. And plus, you can easily serve your things either as a web app and on a mobile on a phone, or there are some functionality to pack everything into a like an Android app, so that you can actually use not only your app on a web page as a web app, it can also use on a mobile phone, and it will feels like a Android app because it is used to develop like an Android app or an iOS app on the on a mobile device. However, from what I use for the Flutter is totally fine, and it is getting very popular. And what I heard is from like 2 years ago, it actually get quite popular in game community. A lot of people using Flutter to use to develop games because it is very suitable, like simple 2D games. It is perfectly fine platform, I mean toolkit to do so. The people actually like to use it. So the good thing is it has a huge community. It's not going anywhere soon because it has a community. I actually didn't look. I mean, I didn't think so before. But after I seen, I mean, because it use a less common language like Dart, it's not using like a Swift things or like Kotlin, Java, this kind of thing. It use a Dart language that is technically only used. People only use that language when they design Flutter app. So that is kind of art things. So I kind of think it will die very soon, but I was wrong. Because it's getting healthier, never than ever. So it has a huge ecosystem. And you can have a very style app. That's for sure. But when you use the Flet, my experience is I feel like my app is kind of slow and kind of laggy. I'm not sure what happens right now, but when I used like 2 or 3 years before, and it's possible that it's my fault. I didn't use it correctly, but the reason I didn't use it more is because I kind of feel it kind of getting slower. So I turn into like NiceGUI and I feel pretty good. So I haven't checked the data science component. I mean the richness of data science component. Uh, but I think it is still worth trying if you are aiming for style, modern style, elegant style, and you are planning to have to use it on a mobile phone. It's worth trying. It is still worth trying. But my experience back then, and I was still going back sometime to try it again. But my experience back then is it is kind of lag and kind of laggy and slow. It is definitely not the fault of Flutter, because Flutter can write really quick, and you can see it in its web page. It has a lot of commercial apps based on it. It is totally fine with Flutter. It probably because it is have to work with Python, so it is very complicated binding together each other. So that's and it is still possible that is my fault, my own fault that I didn't write it correctly. But I think when I write a more complicated application, it will get him slower. Even with simple one, I think it is slow. So that's my own experience. So just for reference, it's not very I mean authoritative review. It's just my experience, and I still suggest you that you can try it a while. I'm just saying that the reason I didn't use it is one of my experience, and I think the style. I really like the final product. I mean the app that I'm building. I like the style, and it works perfectly fine on the phone. I can guarantee that. But the thing is, I don't like the the smoothness and the reaction time, the lagness on it. Okay, so here is another library that is called the streamlit. The streamlit. Okay, I link to this page is because you can see that how magical and easy to use the um streamlit is. It is sort of like the Foila that we see before, but it can work on Python files, not on Jupyter Notebook, and it does not rely on the IPY widget. It has its own widget. But the thing is, it has some magic inside it. When I say magic, I mean just see the code. So this is a code. You can see that it actually just write one thing, just one command. This is the app itself, and it will become an app right here. You don't have a like a app launch, demo launch like Gradio, or like PartyDash, or like any other library. You simply write st write. This is the whole program. So that's why I mean it use a lot of magic. It is doable. We know how to do it. I can imagine a certain way to do that, but it requires some magic, and you will think there are a lot of mechanism behind the scenes. The code is simple right here. It just code that right, but it does a lot of things for you. So this is one signature of what the streamlit is. It is quite very easy to get into it to begin with, because you don't even have any slight idea what the web app is. You just follow it and write something very intuitively, and you don't need to worry about anything about the difficulty about what is a browser communicate with your server, what is the front end, what the back end. You can get your first app. So that's pretty much just the code, and it supports something like live update. So you can simply write something right here, like you will get things like directly see the output almost immediately. That's a quite good thing. But this kind of magic has some issues, especially for the memory, because it does a lot of magic for you. So when you're running a large model or large complicated things, the the streamlit probably doesn't know which part is more memory consuming, which part is more need like computational power consuming. So if it doesn't have this information, it will run everything again and again. So you probably will want it to, to do more the update more smartly. So that will start causing. At the beginning, you will feel it's very convenient, very easy to do, but everything is handled for you. But because every logic is handled, the UI logic is handled by the streamlit, it's not by you. So when you need to have some fine adjustment, you will feel kind of scary or confusing what is going to have. So that is become difficult. So that's why I don't like streamlit. When I write sort of like more complicated things, because it is deceivingly simple to write it, but there are a lot of difficult things need to be handled. But I'm perfectly sure it has some solution to these things. Just like the gradio have a high level way to write it, have a low level way to write it. The streamlit also have certain way to do that. It is still a pretty fine choice, and it is open source, and you can do it a lot of different methods to do so. But between gradio and streamlit, because we have gradio, so I will choose gradio. Instead of streamlit. Although I have already tried streamlit a little bit, but I think the magic is not a way to go in Python. So that's the reason I chose gradio. There are two reasons, because gradio has more Hugging Face support. But even without Hugging Face support, I probably will choose gradio more, because I don't like the magic. So I can still think that one can prefer streaming, because they have totally no idea and confused. They just cannot imagine why we want like a demo launch. What is an app? Why I ever need to define an app, like a dash, like gradio. You need to define an app, either like use blocks or like using interface. There's an app. Although I think the gradio hide it in a very good way, doing it very handling nicely, but you still need an app to, and you have to launch it at the end of the main file. But you are more towards like you like Python because it can write a one line hello world. If that is the reason, and you think it's very important to doesn't have any structure on the program, you simply write several lines, and all you need is a simple app. You don't like class or don't like anything like function and all these things. All you know is you have function and you want to write it and make it interactively. You don't want to have a callback binding to each other. you just want to have a straightforward logic, and you don't want to learn all these kind of things. They are confusing, and you don't need them. Then I think in this case, the streamlit provide a unique solution to these things. You just write everything in a straightforward way, and it will automatically become a interactive application. The only comparable things to this one is the Foila. Foila can do similar things. So I mean, when I say unique solution, it probably not that unique because Foila is kind of comparable to these things. You don't need, for one thing, the Foila, you don't need a like a demo launch, app launch things, because it run the GP notebook for you. So streamlit can run in a similar way. Because I didn't use it for quite a long time, but if I remember it correctly, it still have a low level interface that you can run it more like a traditional way, like you have app launch things to have more fine controlling, to have more fine grained controlling, and it actually provide. The development is emphasis on the large language model, and it also serves on one of the defaults on Hugging Face. So it is still a nice choice to have. I used to write a few program in streamlit a little bit, but right now I think in most of the scenario, gradio is probably a better choice for you. But anyway, it is still a very valid choice. All of this, I encourage you to try all of them and get your own opinion. Do not depend on my opinion. I'm providing my opinion, but these are just some things that you can have some reference and to disagree with. For one thing, one thing that my opinion serves is you can disagree with them. You have something to disagree with. Okay, don't take my opinion too seriously. Another way to quickly to compare to each of them is to see a standard application here that used to compare different framework. That is called the to-do MVC. It is not for the data science. It's more for like a application, like MVC frameworks. What it is simply a to-do list. We can see maybe React here. Okay, this is a to-do list. This is a goal. The goal, the thing is that we design this app. We can click it to see this is to-do list, or like buying breakfast, reading a book, or like this is to-do list, and you can check to make it done or totally remove it, and have some statistic like how many items left, how many are active, and some filter right here. So here, this is a goal of this app, and people use different framework to write the code for this application to compare which one is better. So here we have a few lists, mostly for like other languages and other frameworks. But here it collect a few code that in the Python dashboard frameworks to compare with. So first one is for NiceGUI. You can see that the author, I'm not sure the author is the author of NiceGUI. Probably there are different authors, but it definitely, like me, he sort of like NiceGUI right here. So you can see a NiceGUI. I think the one who collect this list has similar tests to mine because one of the things is it kind of mention NiceGUI a lot, and for the Class C framework, it also you can see that it also like REMI. I think it has a REMI. Okay, so it says it breaks my heart to put REMI in the Class C section. It also works very hard on his product and is very responsive. It kind of aligned to my test and my opinion. REMI is one of the first framework I use along this direction. It is called the remote desktop things, and I actually use it in some of the project. If you are familiar with one library called the PySimple UI, it has different backend. One of the backend is tkinter that is built in Python, and it also has a Qt or GTK backend, I believe. I did one of them. I know it has a Qt backend, and it also have like a web UI backend, and it is based on REMI. So REMI is a very long-lived project, a very early project, and people like it. But compared to the more mature project, recently we have like gradio and other things. Although we like it for a very long time, it definitely does not have the maturity and the functionality compared to other frameworks. So I share the same feeling as the author who collect this list. So let's see the NiceGUI code for the to-do list. You can see that it only has like 60 lines of code, and it separates the data and the UI quite clean. You can see that aside from a few important import module things, it actually defines a data class for to-do item and a data class for to-do list, which is very Pythonic, and it is actually very clean. You don't need much comment to understand what this code is, and it already takes like 30 lines of code, including the empty lines, and the UI things only takes like this like 12 lines or so, 13 lines, and you can see that it actually, if you read, it is not as clear as this code, but if you really read into it, you will see that it actually very reflect to the layout itself. So here is just a layout of the to-do list, and you have some label to show in the statistics. So it is still quite straightforward. Here are just some code to put the example items into a to-do list. And here is just some code for launching the AI, because the app, because it just gives some saying that labeling input and the to-do UI, put them together in a UI card, which will make it more visually pleasant, because we are using a container called the card. It would have look like a round edge corner, so it will feel like a stylish. So here is a very complicated, complete implement of the to-do list in very short line, and separate the data and UI quite clean. And you can do the similar thing in panel, and actually show the result here. But if you root into the code, the first thing you will see is you will have some template in HTML. To my test, I don't like it because I'm using Python, not because I don't know what HTML is. it is only because I can use it only necessary in some niche situation. But in general, the reason I use in Python is I don't want to use HTML, and this breaks the code because this is something that your IDE does not have syntax highlighting, so that will introduce the possibility to have bugs. So this is not a good, I would say, not a good approach to have, and the code is kind of longer, and I don't think it's quite clear what it is. But a lot of things reflect to the author's test, not by the framework alone. Because you can see that even with the to-do list, it is a customized class. It is not using a data class. So it kind of reflects to the author's test of what the good code is, not reflect to the framework itself. The framework itself is, I think, is still okay because right here, aside from the beginning of this template, which I think is unnecessary and ugly, but probably it is not necessary. But because all the different tests, he probably think this is okay and perfectly fine. But so it is may not be necessary to put these things right here, just because the author doesn't think this is an issue. But for me, if I have to put these things right here, this is an issue. There's also hyperdiv, which is more complicated things a little bit, but this also reflect to the author's test because it put a lot of note right here, comment right here. The code itself is still quite clean, but they put a lot of things in a main instead of using otherwise to default. This is just different style of coding. But the framework itself seems to be totally fine. The one written in Reflect is pretty short. You can find it in the demo page right here. Here, it's actually pretty short. I think it's quite readable, but the author of this collection has some concern, mostly because of the design choice, because it seems like some functionality he doesn't like, and he thinks this design doesn't separate the data and the logic. I mean the UI things. So he doesn't like it. I think, like I said, it all depends on your test, your coding style. Here is a flet things, and here is a shining things. Okay, shining is another library I didn't mention. It is based on R language. It's very popular in R language. It is more focusing on data science and can be used for like deep learning demos. So if you are coming from a Shining background, if you like R, you probably can use Shiny in Python also. If you go to the Shiny library, the Shiny web page, Python or R, you can see that it will has it support Python and R equally, almost equally, because it can build really beautiful and very easy to do so. I cannot go to too details about it, but I think it's somewhere between the gradio and Voila. It has somewhere between them, and like somewhere between gradio and Voila and the Boca things, somewhere between them. It is a pretty good choice when it works. It provides a rich widget for control. It just I don't use it a lot because I'm not coming from. I use R a little bit, but I does not consider myself an R programmer. So that's the things that you can also try. So we cover a lot of different choices, and I think there's still no one dominant framework. Although Gradio seems to be a more apparent choice, but I don't think it is currently dominate everything. I use Gradio and Party Dash, and sometimes maybe use NiceGUI. I can imagine myself use NiceGUI and flet, but I didn't have a chance to use them for quite a long time. Mostly I use Party Dash and Gradio. So just for you know that this is my choice, but because there's no one dominate everything, it all depends on your coding style, your scenario, and your test. So you can try. I encourage you to try some of them freely, and do not stick on just one of them, and to choose the right tools. Okay, so that's the all everything that we cover in this week. In next weeks, probably in the next 3 weeks, we are going to cover something more about the performance. So including like number and Python that can speed up your program, or a little bit like Rust and of like Polars. We are more focusing on Polar. Polars is kind of like a pandas, but it do have evolved into a more different style, coding style and test. It can still write something similar to pandas, but if you want to have a full power of Polars, it will have a different philosophy and the coding style. So we're talking a little bit about Polars and the Rust, and also we're talking about the Ray and the Jax. So that's a lot of what things we'll talk about in next few weeks. So see you next week.